Tonight on the Silver 5150 channel, Dragon and Tiger. All right. We are here tonight on the Silver 5150 channel. I'm Silver 5150. Thank you for tuning in. And tonight we are going to talk politics. We're going to talk left and right, right and left. Dragon and Tiger Lunar coins from the Perth Mint. This is the second series of Lunar coins at a Perth Mint. This is a 2012 Dragon from the Perth Mint. 1 kilogram of 3/9 fine silver. These are the Lunars I told you that were out there that I did not have in the box of kilos, the roll of kilos. And they're very, very heavy and very, very nice. 2010 Tiger. And again, you know, my guy, my broker, my friend, great guy, man. This guy can find the deals and got me these Lunar coins at such a late stage in my stacking for damn near the original retail price, which, you know, I think, well, just a bit over spot is what I mean. But in any case, I'm going to use these two magnificent coins to give you my thoughts on politics and how it manages to permeate our society and our social fabric and our modern day, populism. Okay, you know, when I was young, I was born and raised a Democrat. I was on the left. I was. And, you know, my parents told me that all Democrats were evil. Jimmy Carter was great. Ronald Reagan was the devil. 666, Ronald Wilson Reagan, like Huey says in Boondocks. And believed that, you know, everything that the government did was good and anything that the Republicans wanted was bad. And that there was nobility and responsibility and fiscal studiousness, in the system. I believed that, this side here, the left, the Democrats, they wanted what was best for the country because they wanted to make sure everybody had something. But it doesn't quite work that way. In order for everybody to have something, everybody has to have opportunity. And there has never been a case in this country, I don't think, where everybody's had opportunity. There's always been some haves and there's been some have-nots. Now, the haves doesn't mean doesn't mean that they're evil because they're haves, and the have-nots doesn't mean that they're good because they don't have. It just means that there are advantages to certain levels of generational wealth and access to information and, access to the upper levels of society that give you, the advantage over the have-nots. And so these people usually ended up in power and started making decisions and stuff. Well, two parties formed here in the country, United States, and when the Democrats first started out back in the day, they weren't that bad. They actually, were patriotic and, they was concerned about the fiscal direction of the country. See, for me, this is all fiscal. Politics. I was born on the left. I was taught to believe right later on. And I believed that the right, they were all about fiscal responsibility and, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and, putting in the effort and stuff. And anybody could become anything. Here, if they just put forth enough effort, it had nothing to do with your background or your generational connections or any kind of advantages or privileges you had. It simply required effort. You put in the effort and you would be able to reach your dreams. Now, for a lot of people, that's been true. All right? A lot of people, that's been true, whether they're on the left or the right. But regardless of the rhetoric and the message and the general, platforms of these parties, the problem is that both of them are compromised. Both parties are compromised. They're compromised, and what are they compromised by? I told you again, I'm all about the fiscal now. I'm more libertarian than I am on the right or the left. And basically, a libertarian wants somebody that's going to be responsible with the money, because if you're responsible with the money, if you have sound money, then there's a lot of limitations that can be placed on irresponsibility or malfeasance. Do your representatives become actual representatives for the people or career politicians? Are they in it for you or for themselves? See, back when we had sound money in the form of gold and silver, if you didn't like what the government was doing, you could take your money out of the banking system, your gold or silver out of the banking system, and when election time came around, the politicians noticed there was a draw on the banks. They called it a mental run on the banks, I guess. And they would start to go out and campaign and find out what was upsetting the people. And once they found out what was upsetting the people, because that's a sign, by the way, when people start to remove their money from the system, that means that they think that there's something going wrong with the system. There's some cheating or malfeasance or some kind of irresponsibility going on. They pulled their money from the banking system. Today is kind of more difficult because, you have fiat capital out there, in the form of currencies and credit and whatnot. Banks have their own credit line. They're using repo right now to keep themselves afloat when everything's starting to fall apart. But the bottom line is that governments, no matter what policy they make or no matter what promises they make, they cannot fix what's wrong with our government. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of scarcity and sin, versus, abundance and greed on the other side. And nobody has an answer for it. Nobody has an answer for it. Well, I got an answer for it. The answer for it is to scrap the whole thing and start over. Okay? And how do you do that? A good friend of mine, more than a friend, she told me that if you want to find out what's wrong, if you want to fix things, FTM. FTM, what's that? Follow the money and find out where the money's actually going, what's being done with it, how much is being created, and what the outcomes are of all of this money you keep hearing about. And sure enough, I started looking and I started learning. And as it turns out, our elected leaders, they have not been responsible people. I don't care if they're on the right or the left. They have all been a bunch of self-serving political animals. You look at their resumes and their histories, they come into office with very little. They leave millionaires or even on the Forbes 400 list. They get all these crazy deals for writing books and talking to the Grocers Association and whatnot. And we stay down here waiting for our great opportunities to become available to us. As it is now, we got to find those opportunities because the governments and the people that have been elected to run it for us, they are not making that platform. They're not making those opportunities available in the terms of their policy. Policy is what creates the opportunities. Proper policy, good policy, creates the opportunities for people to go out and become whatever they want. We have the freedom, but even that they're trying to take away as they sit there and try to funnel all of the wealth into their coffers. So when you vote your conscience this election season coming next year, just keep in mind to listen for words that relate to the movement of money from either side of the aisle. Take a listen and hear how they talk about money, how easily they throw around the terms billions and trillions. They're probably going to start using quadrillion before the next election. And you're supposed to just sit there and go, business as usual. Everything's fine. Everything's not fine. The money is going to dry up, or the currency and credit, as it were. Get yourself into some precious metals. You don't have to do anything this fancy. Buy some buffaloes. But get yourself in a position so that when the system does crack up, you will be apart from it financially. This keeps you outside of the system long enough to survive until the next one arrives. This is a long video, so I'm going to cut it short. But just use your ears and listen to how they talk about money. And we'll see you next time.